Welcome everyone. Thank you very much for coming. This is so wonderful to be honoring Bryan this way with all of your help. I'm Dave Tyler, co-founder of TriFury, along with Paul Sedgwick, who will speak in a few minutes. And we're so glad to have you here and to honor Bryan in this way. We've got a few people that want to say some stuff, including bigger than life John Young, who's not here because he's up in Canada. His son graduated college, but he sent me a whole bunch of stuff to say. I'm not going to say all of it. John can talk, but he wanted me to say how he met Bryan back when he did his first triathlon at the triathlon that Claire Cloutier put on in Lowell along with TriFury back in 2009. He emailed Claire and said, "Hey, I want to try this challenge athlete," and she said, "Absolutely come," because she was yes you can as anyone. And so he came, he met Bryan then, and they bonded immediately, and since after that they became very close friends. They did the Boston Marathon together a few times, and one time Bryan was thinking of Bryan wasn't thinking of dropping out. John was thinking of dropping out because he's having a tough day. He saw Bryan and Rick, and that kept him going. So Bryan probably said something discouraging, but that kept him going. So John just wanted me to make sure that we honor him, and that and Bryan helped him do something that no one thought was possible. And he's gone on to do Ironman Triathlon and a bunch of other triathlons, and the Boston Marathon. McGilvery knows 8 times, 7 times, something like that. Just amazing. So Bryan was always there and a close friend to John. And he just says, we all need to remember to be like Bryan. So thank you, John, for that. Our next speaker, if I get this in the right order, is going to be a member of Team Hoyt that was close to Bryan, and that's Dennis Charles. Wants to say a couple of words.
Thank you.
Okay. We're okay.
Bryan brought so much to all of our lives. I had the fortune of being on Team Hoyt with him for 10 years. Dick was the legs, Rick was the heart, Bryan was the soul of the team. Always giving, always with a smile. With a sense of humor and grace. I had the fortune of doing a few Ironmans with him. I used to go down to Florida each year with him, Pat and John as well. And each year at the finish, I'd be like, never again. The next morning, I'd be showing up with a credit card and a smile at 8 o'clock saying, let's go, it's going to sell out. And that was Bryan. I invited him, doing a fundraiser, invited him to say a few words about Team Hoyt. And so, trying to get people to open up their wallets, open up their purses. And instead, he stood at the front of the room in front of all my friends, family, and work colleagues and proceeded to do a Bryan Lyons roast. But that may have been like one of the most proudest days of my life, because it showed that we had a bond and a connection and a friendship, and that went out through Team Hoyt through the years that we did the marathon together. When he took over in 2015, I was in Fenway Park and got talking to a stranger, and the stranger said, do you know Bryan Lyons is going to be pushing this year? And I'm like, wow, Bryan's like turning into a bit of a celebrity. And so I asked Bryan, I said, how's it feel? He goes, it's just me going out for a run with a good friend. And that's who he was, humble and to the last. He had plans of doing the Kona in May 2020, and just kept texting me saying, come to the race, come on, it'll be fun. And I'm like, what about this wave of COVID thing? And then he just texts back this picture of the beer, Kona big wave. It says, this is the only wave I'll be riding. To our friend, we love you, Bryan. Thank you so much for this time.
Thank you very much. I just mentioned that Bryan met Rick and Dick when they came to a TriFury banquet way back when, and that was the first time they met him, and they bonded, and I think Bryan and Rick were best friends. Absolutely, right? So it all started with this crowd. All right, so next speaker is Bryan's great friend, college buddy, and fraternity brother. Bryan was in a fraternity. You let him go in a fraternity? Michael Dollaher.
Thank you. Love you too. Good morning. My name is Mike Dollaher, and I'm a friend and fraternity brother of Bryan Lyons. I wanted to begin by thanking the Lyons family for giving me the opportunity to honor Bryan with a few words, as well as TriFury for this amazing tribute in keeping the memory of Bryan alive. I met Bryan at the University of New Hampshire in 1990. He was not only Mark's older brother, but also a de facto older brother to me as well. In 2015, he asked me to run the Boston Marathon as part of Team Hoyt, and little did I know that this would alter the direction of my life forever. I'd been at the Boston Marathon in 2013 as a spectator with my two young children when the second of two bombs exploded outside the Forum restaurant. On the second floor of the restaurant, all around me was shattered glass, knocked over chairs, broken wood, smoke and dust. I could hardly breathe, both from the smoke and the fear that it overcame. As my family and I ran out of the restaurant through the kitchen and the alley behind, all I saw were severely injured people receiving emergency care. I was living a nightmare. Although my children and I were not physically injured in the weeks and months that followed, I struggled mentally. I had difficulty trying to make sense of what had happened and those that had lost their lives. We all go through challenging times in life, and often it's the people who surround ourselves with that helps to lift us up. Bryan knew that I was struggling, and he gave me an opportunity to run and finish the 2015 Boston Marathon as part of his team. He gave me a renewed sense of purpose and the strength to deal with what happened in 2013. So thank you, Bryan. You won't be forgotten.
Thank you, Michael. Okay, next, another good friend of Bryan's, Tammy Stapleton. We just got back from Vegas.
Yes. She still has her shirt though. Good morning. I knew Bryan, initially met Bryan through Team Hoyt, but it extended way beyond Team Hoyt, and he became a very close friend. People who know me know I'm no stranger to 4:30 a.m. wake-up calls in the name of fitness. What they might not know is that my all-time favorite workouts happened right here at this lake, nearly every Friday morning at the butt crack of dawn. It definitely wasn't the zombie drive to Silver Lake or the inevitable first plunge into the dark waters that I looked forward to. It was the smile waiting for me in the parking lot, and the warm, squeeze the life out of you hug that came with it. After our usual grumbling about the hour and taking wild guesses about how cold the water would be, spoiler alert, it was always cold, we'd start tiptoeing into the lake, dodging minnows like they were tiny sharks. Before every swim, I'd tell Bryan, do your own thing, don't wait for me, I'll be right behind you, and every time, he'd pretend to listen. But I was rarely behind him. He'd always pop up to my left, to my right, or somehow behind me, smiling like a mischievous sea otter. That's just who Bryan was. He never let me trail behind. Whether we were swimming, running, or just navigating life, he checked in with texts, phone calls, and always found me at events with a well-timed one-liner or a goofy grin. Bryan had a way of loving people fiercely, generously, and without ever making a big deal about it. This bench, he would have cracked a joke the second he saw it, probably something self-deprecating. But deep down, he'd be humbled, grateful, honored. So Bryan, how'd we do? I hope we've made you proud. We'll continue to swim at sunrise, laughing and dodging minnows, and thinking of you with full hearts and foggy goggles. Love you, Bryan.
Next, co-founder of TriFury and the guy who made this thing, had the concept, put it together, made it happen, Paul Sedgwick.
Hi everyone, I was Bryan's patient at this dentist office. I was his teammate, rival, training partner, and many a morning we'd be down here ready to swim, and we were just standing right in this spot, and he would say, you know, it's not going to get done just by looking at it. And off we'd go. So I want to thank the Lyons family and all the people who helped get this bench here. In final words, it's the commitment that is higher than expected. It may not be visible, but can be perceived. Excellence is a result of going an extra mile. It is about being precise, being a part of the solution, developing a can-do attitude, making an effort to stand out, and making a mark. Thank you. Thanks, Bryan.
Thank you, Paul. Next, the son of Dick Hoyt, the brother of Rick Hoyt, the CEO of the Hoyt Foundation, Russ Hoyt.
So I can confirm that Bryan and Rick were best friends. Their favorite joke to share with each other is running uses every muscle in your body, and the brain is not a muscle. There's a picture on the bench here. If you get a chance to look at it, please do. There's some detail and some humor in there that we really appreciate. If you take a look at the way that Rick's looking at Bryan, it tells you everything that you need to know about Bryan Lyons. Bryan pushed Rick in the Boston Marathon 3 times after Dad retired, and Rick loved the fact that he had bragging rights over his dad forever. I ran Boston more times than you, so thanks for that, Bryan. They also attempted to do the Ironman together, and that's a picture of the time that they were together there. Just really appreciate everything Bryan did for Rick, but more importantly, I appreciate everything Bryan meant to the entire Hoyt family. He really became a part of our family, and we love him for that. I want to thank TriFury for allowing me to participate in today, and I want to thank Pat and the entire Lyons family. Thank you for allowing us to be a part of this special day for Bryan.
Thank you, Russ. Thanks for being here. Next, world record holder, 7 marathons, 7 continents, 7 days. And then what did you do? Becca Peasy, Bryan's close friend.
Thanks so much for having me. My Bryan story, he was like a brother to me, which meant he was always picking on me. So I was offered a slot in Kona, Hawaii, Ironman World Championships, and I said, what do you think about this? And he was like, I think you're crazy. I didn't know you knew how to swim. And I said, I don't. Can you help me? And after staring at me for 2 minutes, he said, yeah, I'll help you. You can do it. You got this. And, you know, he was always making me laugh. I would push for Team Hoyt, and I'd go collect my award. And he'd say, of course you won. You were pushing a toddler. You were pushing grown men. So he was always there for me, making me laugh. He was the president of my foundation, which he gave me the courage to start, which has raised over $100,000. And he made my logo, and he was all in. And he's that type of guy, and I think about him all the time, especially at inappropriate, funny times in my life, but I really miss him and really excited to be a part of this day, so thanks for having me.
Next, the race director for the Boston Marathon, motivational speaker, philanthropist, and serious triathlete, Dave McGilvray.
Okay. So Dick and Rick and Bryan came to my house on my 60th birthday. As many people know, I run my age on my birthday, so I was running 60 miles that day. And at the end of the day, Dick and Rick gave me a gift certificate as a present. And I opened it up, and it was an opportunity to push Rick in any race of my choice. And I don't think anyone else had pushed Rick other than Dick and Bryan. And to be given the opportunity to do something that only 2 people in the world had ever done before was pretty emotional for me. So I decided I was going to do it finish at the 50 at Gillette Stadium. And I get there, and Bryan's there, and Rick's there, and I get behind Rick, and I turn to Bryan, and I said, how the hell do you do this? I had no idea how to steer it, how to do anything. And then I said, you know, I've known the Hoyts for like 30 years. I've managed them, done things with them, but I've never, ever been alone with Rick, ever, alone, just me and him. I said, I'm gonna be out on that course alone with Rick. Like, what do I talk about? And Bryan turns to me with a grin and he goes, just talk about girls. that's all I did. That one, look at that one. And he was having a great time. One of the greatest athletic experiences of my life. And lastly, the person Bryan was and still is. He called me up the night he passed away. At 8 o'clock at night. It was during the pandemic, as we all know. I lost everything. My whole business went over the cliff. 35 events, gone. I thought 35 years of directing races, and I just lost all my business. He calls me and he says, Dave, I have an idea for you. I said, what? He said, why don't you do a virtual relay across the country and raise money for your foundation and for your business, to keep your business alive. And I had run across the country in 1978. He said, just do that same course and get people to sign up. And I said to myself, wow, that's not a bad idea. It seems a little daunting, but not a bad idea. So we hung up, and the next day I heard that he had passed in his sleep. And I thought, I might have been the very last person to have ever spoken to him. And the very last thing he did, was an act of kindness. An act of kindness, trying to help me, a friend, like he's helped all of you. And I never forgot that. So we did the relay across America in his name, in his honor, and in his memory. And Bryan was just that kind of guy. He gave of himself to so many. So we love you, Bryan. I'm going to be sitting on your bench for a long time. Thank you very much.
And now our most important speaker, Bryan's mom, Pat Lyons.
Well, I don't know about that. First of all, I want to thank you all for coming out and for supporting Bryan and Team Hoyt and TriFury all these years, and especially the Lyons family. Could not have made it 5 years without you guys. I mean that from the bottom of my heart. And I can't do this without reading, so bear with me. And I can't do it without my glasses. Dollar store glasses. And also, thank you for coming out for the first day in 14 weeks that it's not raining on a Saturday. But there are no words that can express the gratitude and love that the Lyons family has for Bryan's TriFury family, for keeping his memory alive. There are 3 Bryan Lyons Try the Tri races every summer right here at Silver Lake. He has been inducted into the Elite TriFury Hall of Fame, and now a dedicated bench in his name right here for Bryan. This is where he did his swims and his workouts with Tammy and many others, I know for a fact. His dad and I, we knew he was a special kid. We also knew he was a pain in the ass kid. And I think there are several of you that can attest to that. But we didn't know Bryan until he passed away. The things, and I'm still hearing things today that I've never heard before. And the stories that I heard shortly after he passed away blew his dad and me away. Who the hell is this kid? I don't know this kid. I don't know that he went with Jim. I didn't know that he went with Jim every Friday. I didn't know that he went with Tammy every Friday morning. I knew he was busy. I knew he enjoyed what he did, and I knew he did it with friends, but I didn't know to the extent. So then I realized I have witnessed several of these things, but it wasn't until after he passed away. And these are the things that opened my eyes. When he first opened his practice, it was a tiny little practice, a tiny little waiting room on Post Road, is that the name of it? On Post Road in Billerica. And I'm sitting in the waiting area. Nothing says mom on it. And I'm waiting to be seen just like several of the other people in the waiting room, waiting to be seen by Bryan. And this woman walks in and she says, "Oh, Mary, I didn't know you used Dr. Lyons." And she said, "Yes," she said, "we love him. And now my father-in-law and my mother-in-law come here." And that's when the buttons on my blouse started popping. So that night, I called Bryan and I said, Bryan, when you go to work tomorrow, I lost some buttons. Will you look for them? And he said, oh, sure. He said, I'll have Judy look for them. And I told him what happened. And he still didn't get it. He still did not get it. And I said, no, Judy doesn't have to look for any buttons. So that was the first thing that came to mind. The second thing was, now we're in the new office, big, bright office. And I'm in the waiting room, no sign that says mom. And in comes this woman, young woman, with her wedding album. And she proceeds to show Judy and all the rest of the staff her beautiful wedding pictures. And then she says, and I hear it, you know, I wouldn't be showing these pictures to you if it weren't for Bryan. Look at my smile. I never had that one before. But the real clincher was about 10 years ago, I had a knee replaced. And I'm at St. Joe's. This is a couple of days later. And I'm dozing off and on. And I wake up to two nurses standing next to me, and they're talking. And one of them says, you know, if it wasn't for that kid with the Team Hoyt shirt on, pushing the wheelchair, pushing the running chair with sandbags in it, we never would have finished. And I woke up and I said, hey, that's my kid. So they proceeded to tell me that they had gotten partway through Great Bay race, and that they decided, can't go on, this is it. And Bryan comes running past with his running chair and cement bags or sand, whatever the hell you guys put in there, and waves to them. And he said, we looked at each other and said, oh, we gotta finish this. And they finished the race. I was absolutely blown away, but none of these things clicked until after I heard all the stories from you guys. And all I can say is thank you so very much for being a part of Bryan's life and now a part of the Lyons' life. And you are all family. We love you. And as I said before, we could not have made it without you guys. Thanks.
Yes, Alyssa Middleton.
Russell, can you come and take this off?
Yes.
Pat, go ahead. Like that.
Should we all go around for another time?
It says, in loving memory of Dr. Bryan Lyons. Yes, you can.
Said the baby was free. Thank God. Thank you.